In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Question everything.
Trust nothing.
It's your boys, Keeper and Crusader, and we've got a special guest for What If Wednesday, the one and only CBO Crypto. CBO, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Always a pleasure to be on here. Thanks for having me again.
So, guys and gals, normally we have CBO here on Thursdays, and I know what people are thinking. Are we about to go wild on the charts tonight? Well, we might have some charts tonight, but it indeed is What If Wednesday. What are we talking about? Well, let's talk about what if the Bitcoin election cycles and housing market cycles all intersect. And I will tell you in advance, CBO brought this to our attention, I don't even know, maybe 3 weeks ago, something like that. And it was too interesting to pass up. And we said, bro, you're not coming on Thursday this week. You're coming, well, shoot, you might even be coming on tomorrow too, but you're definitely coming on Wednesday. So we're excited about it. Make sure you guys smash the likes, do all the things that YouTube asks you to do or that we're asking you to do. It takes 2 seconds. X out of the live chat. Do that. Jump into the Discord. And as always, follow our special guests. Make sure, hey, CBO, you want everybody following you on Leading Crypto? Is that where you're looking for most of the push? Or you got somewhere else? What you got going on?
Yeah. You can, search up Leading Crypto on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have the links in there or just in Twitter and TikTok, just under CBO Crypto. But
so I put
you for YouTube. So
I put your Leading Crypto on YouTube, and I did not put your TikTok in there, but I could put that in there for sure. So, Crypto fam, let's have some fun tonight. Before we dive into the what ifs, first of all, Discord, you know what time it is. Get in there. The cipher, you guys are close, but you still got some more to go. Miguelito está enojado conmigo. That means Miguel is mad at me right now for giving you guys a little too much information. But that's okay. You still haven't got it, and you've disappointed me. I was betting on you, Crypto fam. You've got to step your game up. Miguel, how are you feeling about this cipher, bro?
I'm just saying, for somebody that was previously trained in military tactics as a Marine, you talk pretty fast. That's all I'm going to say.
I do. I do. It's like I was being waterboarded. I just needed to come up and breathe and tell them something.
No, I feel like you just saw the water gallon and you're like, don't worry, guys, I'll talk. Whatever you guys need, I'll tell you guys. We don't need to take it to this point.
I'm looking forward to you guys finding out, because I will tell you the secret drop. The artwork has been coming in.
Here we go again, guys. More information coming unnecessarily.
Artwork is dope. Just letting y'all know it's dope. So with that being said, let's take a peek at the markets real quick. Let's see what's going on up in here. And then we'll dive into the what ifs of the Wednesday. Also, last thing before we get into that, we met a lot of people in NFT Las Vegas. And so we've got a lot of meetings that are coming up, and I will encourage you guys, make sure you pay close attention in the coming weeks. We've got a lot of people in the NFT space that are going to be coming on, that we're going to be doing some collaborations with. We're super excited. There's some really cool projects that we're going to introduce you guys to. And then also, obviously, they'll be introducing us into their ecosystems as well. Let me get off of this right here. And the crypto market cap is at $982.93 billion with a B dollars. It's up 0.82%. Not even going to dive into the rest of the top 10. I'm just going to tell you, Bitcoin's at 20,136. ETH is at 1549.86. And Miguel, I know, I know that you are doing the TA as a normal course of action. We do have CBO sitting here. Take your pick. Do you want to slop out a little TA there, or you want CBO to do it?
That's like having like Picasso right in front of you and say, "Don't worry, Picasso, I'll paint the picture," and then just let the guy just sit there and was like, "Come on, let the master do it, or let some noob."
Oh, I gotta, I'm gonna keep mine for tomorrow. So today we're gonna take a look at see how Miguel's is progressing.
Okay, Miguel, he wants to see your work right now. Picasso wants to see what the trainee has been doing, and I sure didn't want to take away your opportunity to spread
this is all I got, guys. This is all I got. So take it easy on me. All right, we've been in this regression trend, right? Downward, long time. We've been in this sideways consolidation. We broke below the heart line, like I told you guys, right? We have been retesting it. We broke below that. We broke below the point of control, and then obviously now we started looking at pivot Fibonacci. Shout out to Leading Crypto over here, right? next support would be at 16,000 if we can't reclaim this point of control. So that's going to be a big one. And after that, next support line is at 9,000. But CVO doesn't believe we're going to go down there. So that's all I got, right? We see the momentum wave here has been peaking out at the bottom, might be coming up for a roundabout back over, but we don't know. It doesn't seem that bullish right now. The money flow, very neutral, not negative or positive, and the VWAP also very neutral. RSI is down in kind of the oversold territory, but things are not looking good. People are very unsure with the Federal Reserve and what they're doing with interest rate hikes, and September is just seeming to look like uncertain times. Some people are bullish, some people are bearish. We will see.
We will see where it's headed, and we'll talk about it again tomorrow night. So make sure you're there for Around the Charts. Again, as a reminder, guys, we got 40 people in here. I can't currently see how many likes we have, but I'm going to take a stab at the fact that we don't have 40 likes. So that's the only problem we have right now. Make sure, do your thing. All right, let's get into it. It's What If Wednesday. We're talking about the election cycles, we're talking about the real estate market, and we're talking about Bitcoin. CVO, give me the overarching theme on kind of the conversation that we had, and then we'll dive deep into it. But what exactly is the suggestion being made here that we're talking about tonight?
So one thing that I've studied for quite a while, that's actually what got me really interested in like the stock market, crypto, and things of that nature. I really didn't put too much effort into it until like the last few years now, but it all started like literally 12 years ago. I saw this guy, and I just actually ran through and found his video still on YouTube. And it's crazy because it's almost like a black and white movie watching something from 12 years ago on YouTube. But this guy basically just outlined the housing market, right? And this was 2012, and I'll have to get this video and bring it to you guys and show it to you. I think it's like one of his only videos on there, a couple 100,000 views, whatever, over the last decade or so. And, what he did was he was like just showcasing on a napkin pretty much, he was like, this is the housing market, yada, yada, yada. You got these boom bust cycle, blah, 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 really, really kind of vague. And he was just like, make sure that you buy a home before or by 2016. And this was like, 2012. So a couple years ahead, basically coming right out of the 2008 financial crisis and all that, whatever. And it's always been really interesting to me because he just showcased how, that housing cycle from that time period would basically be coming to an end, a top, however you want to look at it, around 2027, 2028, 2020, the end of this decade, essentially. And so that got me, looking into all these other things and whatever. And, one of the things that really has been resonating recently is how even myself, right, I was a pretty big advocate of the 4-year cycle for crypto, right? Crypto is brand new, essentially, compared to other assets. The housing market obviously doesn't just move by itself. Everything moves together with it. And crypto, there's just so much, unknown, I guess, around it, even going to the idea of like who created it, who's Satoshi, is
it's
it
young.
Right. is it the government, that just really created it? And is there a game plan and is there an agenda behind it? Whatever the case may be, right? This is all What If Wednesday, right? And the timing of Bitcoin, being born, it was very interesting because it came out in 2009, really didn't really see a spark until 2011. And what we're going to go over today is kind of correlating the housing market, which you can actually backdate for 250 year, 300 years. You could do it in the UK for 300 years. It's a really, really intense, back tested amount of data. And this is just taking everything out, right? Take out all the day-to-day, all the news, all the politics, whatever. You just got pure data. And going to correlate that with the crypto market. And then as well, you're going to assume that the housing market, the stock market, and everything will kind of move together. So it's kind of what I, wanted to kind of showcase. And then, with the elections and things of that nature, I just wanted to show that, the idea right now is that we're in basically the last stint of the current housing market cycle, which in theory would, have one last leg up. And this is not meaning like a couple months. This is, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, possibly that we could have more upside coming for the housing market, which also is going to, bleed into crypto and then the stock market as well. And the timing of certain things are just very interesting. And we're going to go over this little diagram that I have here and a couple other ideas, and it's going to all merge really well. And it's going to be pretty interesting.
So where do you want to start with it? Where do you think the best place to start here? Are we going to start with the crypto-centric side, the electoral side of things? And for everybody watching, you know how we roll. We don't hang right. We don't hang left. We just stay right down the middle. Government stay out of our business. However, we may have some thoughts that might lean one way or the other, but we're trying to stay out of the political. Okay, that's a lie. We just call it how we see it. It's your guys are just going to have to deal with it. If you don't like it, hey, you know how, just make sure to hit the dislike button on the way out, because that helps us too. No, we're going to have some fun tonight. How do you want to start with it tonight, CVO or Miguel? Do you have a something that you want to ask to kind of kick it off specifically?
I want to see the details of this theory, and then I'll probably have some questions.
Let's kick it out, man. So we'll go over the housing market to start off. I got like this diagram shared on my screen if you want to show that. A simple Google image. I mean, this is a very, very just good way to showcase this. And like I said, you can go back and back test this like literally for the last 200 years. For what you see here, right, is so far this 18-year real estate cycle. And essentially you have, right, you're basically your start off here. You got a leg up here. You get this mid-cycle slowdown, correction phase, a little boom and bust, you know, however you want to look at it. But it's basically a 1 to 3 year period where everybody believes that the market is topped out. And this is, you know, this is once again on the real estate side. So it's going to basically stand for the stock market. Obviously, crypto hasn't been around on a lot of these dates, but it's going to make a lot of sense here in a second. So you get this initial run up, you get this mid-cycle, you know, correction, pull down, however you want to look at it. Around this time frame, like I said, this is, you know, 1 to 3 years. So you get this up and down, almost sideways movement. And then, you know, everyone on this second leg on the way down, you know, you start breaking. If you were to look at this on a chart, you know, this is actually like lower lows here and things of that nature, and get everybody really worked up and probably panic selling around these regions. There's generally a black swan event that takes place right here. And like I said, I've back tested this for 200 years. I'm going to go over all these dates right here, right now, just kind of showcasing how these are all correlated. But this is the last 3 cycles that are on this chart, right? So one started in 1955 and ran till 1972. One started in 75, ran till 89, 93, 2007. Obviously, we're, you know, all pretty familiar with 2007, 2008. What you'll notice here actually is that the years that everything topped was very interesting, because what really, you know, the world events that took place that, you know, you'd look back on and say, oh, this was the reason, was pretty much a year later on almost all 3, right? So 2007 was the high, but 2008 was our you know, financial crisis, right? And I'm going to go over these other 2 real quick here in a second. But that's like kind of the overall sentiment. This is just an average, so it's not just guaranteeing that every 7 years, you know, you run up, you get a pullback, and then it's another straight 7 years, and then you get a 4-year kind of recovery, crash, however you want to look at this. It is an average. It's about 18 to 20 years overall. And just kind of going over this now, in the past, right, you've got 1955, and that was pretty much when we restarted. This is one of the cycles we're going to take a look at here. You rallied up for 7 to 10 years, basically, before you get this mid-cycle drawdown correction. However, right here in 1961, right? So that's when we started getting this little turmoil in the middle here. And that was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. So black swan event at the time. You know, everybody's getting feared up. There's recessions. There's all, you know, everything that we're dealing with right now, like over the last 2 years. If you back test it and pull up all these years right here, you have the same headlines in every single time. From there, you get this, you know, I call it the ripstick, because you get a massive just run, right? One of those like just straight up blow off tops, and, you know, the things that everybody just always considers like, you know, you don't even get an opportunity to buy in because it just moves so fast, whatever. But this does last for several years, right? So this is like a 4 or 5 year just run up. You'll see how it gets pretty exponential at the top. 1972 comes in, right? So 1972 is the top. Once again, like I said, basically like a year later, the news comes in, and this is when you had the oil crisis of 1973. Once again, small recession, things of that nature, whatever. And then you had the major drawdown. Recovery phase, restart. 1975, we do it again, right? We run it up. 1981. So 81, we ran into one of the largest recessions. This was actually created by rising interest rates at the time. So this is one of the few times where interest rates just went through the roof. I think
interest rates got nuts, absolutely insane.
Like 21%, things like that, right? And once again, if you go back and just look at the headlines, it's the same as what we have now. It's very interesting to know, right? So when you're just really breaking this down into just sheer data points, take out all the news, take out all the everything else, and just kind of think of it in this sense, it's very interesting to see how it's all correlated. And don't get me wrong, I mean, these like straight lines make it look very simple, but you know, there's a lot of ups and downs along the way in these time periods. But you got the 81 recession, interest rates, Fed hikes, all that jazz. 2 years of a little bit of boom and bust, kind of, weed everybody out, get everybody really, scared, panicky. And then once again, another run up, right? 1989, Gulf War, right? Hits in 1990. So once again, another, like, there's a little going, a very going thing here, right? You got a gas crisis here. 2008 was obviously housing market in general, but we'll keep going from there, right? So you got the Gulf War, boom, recovery phase. We restarted again, right? So 1993, run it up. 2001, Black Swan event. 9/11, 2 years of sideways price action. Once again, you're in a huge war across U.S. and everything, and then in the Middle East and everything of that nature. Ripstick, once again, 2008, right? Everybody right here in each one of these scenarios. I mean, I wasn't alive in the first two, obviously, but the feed, once you just search the headlines, I mean, you'll see it. It's the exact same things that we're dealing with today, and it is absolutely mind-blowing to just kind of look back and see these. I should have actually pulled some up, but I didn't know how much time we were going to have to kind of just go through everything. But once again, you can kind of peek at it. But 9/11 rips it up, right? Everybody thinks market's done. This is actually, so 2001 is when you had the .com era as well. Everything was busting from 2000 to 2002. And then we had that final run up to 2007, 2008. So 1 year later was the housing market crisis or financial crisis in general. So coming down here, you'll note that 2010 was our last year here. So essentially, let's just say we restarted this cycle once again, 2010, 2011, 7 to 10 year run up. 2020, obviously we got COVID was our Black Swan event for this time frame, and we're about to facilitate this 2 to 3. We're at the end of our second year so far, running into this time frame, in my opinion, right? So that integrates with stock market. Obviously, now we have crypto in the mix. And interestingly enough, when was crypto born? 2009. When was its last cycle? 2010. So give or take, crypto is born right here. That's why when I keep bringing this idea up is that we focus a lot on these 4 year cycles, but what if it's just
7 years, 2010 to 2017? Then all of a sudden, guess what? Crash, right? Keep it going. Go ahead.
Yep, you get this. I mean, you're picking up what I'm putting down there. And then, what if we're just building out the first, 18, 20 year crypto cycle right now? That's going to correlate with the housing market and everything else, right? So right now you got the restart of this in 2010, 2011. And once again, this is an average, so it's not exactly, start in 2010, 2028 is the end point or whatever. So, but towards that end of the decade, 2027, 2028, 2029, that, in my opinion, I think that's when we're going to see something very similar to this. Maybe we have another oil crisis, who knows? But it's, a lot of things correlate to that as well, right? You have.
So you're saying we're about to moon.
Yeah. Like in a short term, in a short sense, right? But like, when we kind of go back to the beginning here and you said like, I don't think we can go to 10K and all that. I mean, I'm always open to, things being invalidated and obviously adjusting and adapting, but I'm going to go to the Bitcoin chart here in a second and but this, essentially, like I said, 2010, 2011, you had your 2000, we're in the middle of this pullback. We had our initial pullback in 2020, 2021, we ran it up. 2022, where are we? Right. And, in theory, you got a 4, 5, 6 year window where we might see not necessarily just straight up. And once again, this is not just like, whatever. So I'm going to show you the Bitcoin chart with another idea that kind of correlates into this as well. So it's not just showcasing that, September's just going to rocket from here or whatever the case is. Right. So
let me interject here. So, okay, I can get on board with all of this. So let's say I'm on board with the idea that we're looking, the real estate cycle lines up with Black Swan events, lines up with possibly now crypto and the way that crypto has been heading. The question that I always come to, and I think this is a question that people will ask, is when these events happen, for this to genuinely be, an accurate idea that's been back tested for so long, is the suggestion being made that the events, and listen, I am in no way saying on the stream that I'm saying that we faked 9/11 or anything. So please don't anybody take that the wrong way. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm trying to say is that is the suggestion then that we are able to manipulate and force some of these events, because if not, it's just a crazy coincidence. But what you're suggesting is that it's happened for so long in these, sequential cycles, so to speak. how could it be any different? And my part of me says, hey, listen, fashion trends go in like 20-year cycles, right? That's a thing. So now we're back into the late 90s, early 2000s in terms of fashion. Is it just something that's how life cycles, or are we actually having forced incidents on our society? Miguel, I'm sure you have a thought on this.
I have a thought. My question is, since trends, right, fashions, all this stuff, they recycle, how soon are we going to see you rocking a mullet?
You know what? If I was going to be rocking a mullet,
you lived through those days. You lived through those days.
If I was going to be rocking a mullet, it would be right now. Because the kids, right? The kids have been rocking the mullets the last couple of years. When I show up to the, like our softball games, everybody's rocking a mullet. I was never, my mom and dad never put me in a mullet. You will never find a picture of Keeper in a mullet, right? But it was a thing. I had friends that had mullets. It definitely was. But you're never going to see Keeper in a mullet. It's just, I'm too damn good looking for a mullet. A mullet just doesn't really look good on anybody. If anybody tells you they look good in a mullet, they are lying to you. That's all I'm going to say.
I need to see you in a mullet and in a porn stash, rocking it like back in the 80s.
We could definitely talk about the second one, but the mullet is probably not going to be a thing. But yeah, so CVO. So when we look at these, and I know you're going to pull up another chart here and show this. When we look at these, there are a lot of similarities happening, and I know you're going to pull this in a minute. But the election cycles have to play a factor into this, and the reason I say they have to play a factor is because they play a factor in freaking everything. Everything, midterms, all of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Ready for this one? So, once again, what
if
the
chart or no?
You could show it. That's fine. But kind of going back to the idea that, let's just say the housing market, stock market, the everything bubble that everybody thinks is popping now. Say that actually does. We make it down to 2027. We get this last leg up. We get this massive ripstick. You still have investors purchase, and this is the thing with the housing market too, right? I'm not saying just like Bitcoin, just like everything that we see around us, right? We've had pretty decent pullbacks across the board. Can we see a 10, 20, 30% pullback in the housing market and still continue with this theory? Yes. Like that's the idea. Because the thing about it is everybody's looking at this currently. I think that everybody's like, oh, the housing market is going to crash, and term crash, right? That's like 50, 60, 2008 style. Right. And I think that this is going to be one of those situations where we run into the end of this year, maybe, and you get some discounts on the housing market, stock market, crypto kind of trend sideways, whatever the case is. But it's going to be one of the situations where everybody keeps waiting for lower prices, and then it turns around on them, right? So one of those situations. The idea with the election cycle, right? So to me, me, right? The news to me is it's depends on what kind of news it is, right? So like something that the Fed's going to come out and say, like something that's policy, right? Like that's a Magic Internet Money in the group. What's up, man? He actually brings up a good point. It's like, something that's policy obviously holds a lot of weight, right? If the Fed comes out and raises rates tomorrow by, 75, 100 points, whatever, obviously that has an effect. But little things in the interim, Bitcoin, like the Ethereum merge or these things here and there, like, does that really affect things, in the grand scheme? Who knows, right? But in the day-to-day right now, that's what everybody focuses on. They need it. That, if we have a pump in the market or a dump in the market, you have to have, everybody has to have a reason other than just the market being the market, right? So the interesting thing about the political side is that time-wise, we look back and anybody that's, like how Keeper said in the beginning, if you're left, if you're right, whatever, but I'm just putting out an idea here. So take it for what it's worth. And, just what if Wednesday, right? All goes.
Yeah.
But
let's hear it.
2020, man, or 2019, right? The last election, regardless of how you feel about Trump, Biden, Democrats, Republicans, whoever, when you think about the government as a whole, man, you just know that certain things that if they did not want the people to see or be aware of, they get either swept under the rug or, brushed away, or they just don't get shown, right? Like there's just so many things that can be hidden, blindsided, distracted from, whatever. And the election of this last cycle was just so interesting, where you had people on every local news bringing in duffel bags full of votes and whatever, and whether or not it was real, whether or not it was not, it's like they wanted everybody to see this, right? So they wanted you to get this idea. You wanted to, and then obviously
chaos. Biden they wanted to create chaos no matter what.
Exactly. And at the time, everything, all markets, all things were exploding, getting to that really high point. Trump was to, be congratulated for that. Whether or not, realistically, was he the reason that everything exploded at that time frame? Probably not, right? Like if you look at, once again, kind of now putting everything back into a data point, if the markets were just inevitably meant to rally into 2020, like we look at the day to day as, because Trump took office or whatever the case is, right? And Trump being who he was, he really just walked away from that election, which was not like him, right? He was just like, all right, cool. They cheated, they stole it. And that's what, his idea set was, but he just walked away and really haven't heard too much about it. I know he got pulled off social media and this and that, but anyways, but just think about this timing, right? So somebody else comes into office and you got all these issues now you get the gas prices increasing, all these things, when at the end of the day, realistically, just cyclically, those were probably going to happen no matter what. But if Trump was in office, it's one of those things where we can blame now some person or some.
It's all part of the plan, right?
Right. You can kind of blame it on this or that right now. And then 2024 comes around. And what's 2024? Even just looking at it from the 4-year cycle in crypto, right? What is 2024?
The resurrection of
the
Trump.
Next halving, the next election. You assume that the markets are going to probably have a run up from there. When you look at the housing market topping out possibly in 2027, 2028, that's a 4-year window. That's could very well start in 2024 and have that run. We get to that next election, either Trump gets back in office or a Trump-backed person or whatever the case is. And it's just like, oh, you know what? I was out for the 4 years and I'm going to change things back to how I had it when I left. And, you just so happen to get back in office right as the markets are going to explode anyways. So it's just interesting to see how that all correlated around each other. So, and it's just an idea, but,
According to that point, so look, I want to point out one thing. Is the election, right? You talk about how what a coincidence that they shown all these things that they don't want you to know, yet it was so publicly known at the time, right? Like the election, well, no matter whether you believe it or not, the topic of the election being stolen is a public topic that has crossed everyone's mind at one point or another.
Yeah,
that has incepted, right? Like inception. We've been inceptioned now. There's a little seed in our brain that from now on, every election could be fraudulent. Every single election, right? The trust that there are democratic elections.
So you're saying they implanted an idea. They implanted an idea into our heads now. Okay.
Yes. The idea is planted that from now on, every single election, if your guy doesn't win, that was a rigged election, right? It's from now on, there is no more, hey, it's the United States. They wouldn't let that happen. There's no way there could be a fraudulent election. That trust is broken. Now that can exist. Like any other third world country, right? There's elections. Hey, the guy we didn't want to win won. That was fraudulent. Corruption, right? But at the same time, there's something you can do about it. They're showing you that, hey, we can corrupt the election cycle, show it to you, show you all the proof in your face, and you ain't gonna do shit about it. We're still gonna run this, and we're still gonna do whatever we want. Another point that CVO said, right? Trump put up a big fight. Oh yeah. Left the White House really quiet and didn't do anything, right? And what happened? Biden comes in. What comes after Biden? The whole jabbity jab, right? Because if Trump was in office and people were getting the stick, and then people were going unalive in sporting events or whatever, people were like, "Yo, Trump, what's happening here?" Right? Like Trump would look bad for allowing these things to happen. But the fact that now Trump is removed out of the picture, Biden is a walking zombie. We have the perfect scapegoat.
Hold on. So are we suggesting that the true powers that be are Republicans? Is that are you saying that like the puppet masters behind all of this are Republicans? Because that's kind of what's being suggested.
No. I'm not suggesting that the masterminds are Republicans. I'm saying that the masterminds are using this to make people
confuse you and to keep
make
us
somebody
fighting.
A savior versus somebody like, oh my God, we need a scapegoat, right? It's Biden. This guy doesn't got much more to live for. He can be trashed all day long. He's gonna clock out soon. It's okay. Nobody cares, right? Then Trump comes in. He's still got a good time to go. He's got a reputation. He's got kids that are actually possibly maybe running for office at some point down the line, or just benefiting from the business of being president. We got to put this guy back in place. He's the controlled opposition. He shows up and everybody's like, yeah, he's not bought. This guy is for real. This guy is going to clear out the swamp. He's going to arrest Hillary. This guy ain't gonna do shit. He's been at dinner parties with Hillary his entire life. He's all friends with them. He's the controlled opposition. He is presented to us as the relief valve on the pressure cooker. Trump is back. Everything's gonna be okay now. The savior has returned. And it's all controlled opposition.
But he's also probably quite possibly the most hated man in CVO. I know you were raising your hand. He's also one of the most
illusion.
I know, and that's what I was getting at, was that like the other side of that is it's so polarizing. Everything is now hate or love. There's no real in between. You're either right, you're wrong, you agree with me, you don't agree with me. And I heard I heard Obama make a speech one day that I heard it actually, I think I'll replay it on a TikTok. And basically what he said was, at the point that no one believes anything, they have won. And the reason being, because if we don't trust anything coming from the media, we don't trust anything coming from the government, we don't trust anything coming from anywhere, then guess what? They can do anything they want to do. Because at that point, you have nothing or nowhere to turn to, nowhere to believe in. Your allegiances are starting to tear, and they've got you down on your hands and knees begging for a solution. And guess what? Somebody's going to bring it to you. CVO, what were you going to say?
So, being Switzerland at the moment, right, between the two, I personally, when you think about one of the two things, right, so I'm going to kind of merge this whole idea of like who's behind the scenes. Is it Republicans, Democrats, whatever? I personally think that as a whole, all governments, and especially ours, left, right, whatever the case is, I truly believe they work together, right? Like they want to look like they're not, and I think that's just like some
part of the
sort
game.
of a tactic to kind of split up the different personalities within our country, right? Because you definitely have a certain person who leans one way or the other, no matter what. Like you just are one or the other for the most part. Most people are either one or the other, whether they admit it or not. The type of personality you are falls into one of those two camps for the most part. And, it pulls on the heartstrings, whatever is going on with one set and the other set, whatever. And at the end of the day, when you just said, right, like if there's so much corruption and things of that nature, and like, even Trump had, a lot of things get brought up about him, Clinton, somebody was bringing up Gore and Bush and Obama. I mean, every single president has had issues and things and all this, and somebody's trying to impeach them and somebody's trying to get, them arrested, and nothing really ever comes of that ever. Right. So, at the end of the day, I, would imagine that this is all, when you think about it like this in a sense of data, this is how things are going to happen. They literally reoccur. I mean, it takes a long time to do it. It's 20 years, at a time. So, I mean, that's no simple, movement. But in the day to day, the normal person can't, be on the winning side of that. So they have to, play at the emotions. Right. So, drawing at the heartstrings, however you want to look at it. And that's why you have the news by news. And, when things get extremely, towards lows or extremely towards highs, you have, quite the same news catalysts come out at the same time. Right. So at the scariest times, the scariest news comes out. At the happiest times, the happiest news comes out. Right. Like in those senses. So,
I want to share something real quick. Something real quick to this point about how it's controlled opposition. All these people are playing along, right? I'm going to show you how deep the rabbit hole goes here, guys. So here's a nice little image. Our good old George Bush, Putin, right? Russian president, Chinese president, all together inside their Grand Lodge Freemason Club, wearing the same gowns. But yet these people are mortal enemies, right? A Republican out there supporting the Russians, hanging out at the same lobbies in the same parties. These guys are.
Look, Bush is about to dap up the president, China's president. You see him? He's like, "What up, thug? What up, blood?"
So this kind of thing. These kind of things are happening, and the idea that Trump can't be controlled opposition, is too crazy to believe that he cannot be controlled. He's the perfect example of controlled opposition. He does things, and he is portrayed as the complete outcast from everybody else, which gives him that love, right? Because he is so out there. He is so like, oh my God, there's no way this guy's control. That is the perfect guy to control.
So, okay, perfect. So let's say I buy into that idea. So I buy into the idea Trump's controlled opposition. Joe Biden is the scapegoat, right? I don't care whether you love him, hate him, whatever, anywhere in between. He's the scapegoat. Yep. Trump is controlled opposition. The Bitcoin is in, let's just say, a real estate-like cycle. We kind of tie all these things together. What's the explanation behind when things turn back around for the crypto space? It's going to be simply, hey, it's the cycle, or it's going to be, look, Trump comes back in, his business policies, whatever the case, whoever comes back in, it's not going to be a Democrat. I think we probably all know that, because that game goes back and forth. They juggle that back and forth every 4 years, it seems like. And the problem being, so much is being fed to our kids, right? Like I see it every day, and it bothers me now that I have a daughter. I'm kind of weaving a little bit here, but I'm going to pull it back, I promise. I watch these shows on Netflix. I watch these shows on Hulu. I watch these shows on everywhere. And there is a narrative being pushed everywhere. I don't even need to tell you. Everyone that's watching this knows what it is, right? There's a few narratives, but there's a few in particular that you cannot get away from at this point. It's not me being a bigot.
Oh, yeah.
It's not me caring about how you want to live your lifestyle. I don't have to live that lifestyle to let you do it. I just don't need it pushed on me, right? Okay, fine. So that's totally fine. I've got, cousins and friends that live that. Fine. I have no problem with it. Just, we don't need the. So my question is, why the narrative along with all of the financial summary? Do the financials need the narrative, or does the narrative need the financials? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, why do we have one side that pushes this huge narrative, pushing people one direction, the other in the other direction? And it seems as the last 20 years, when it pushes one direction, taxes are always way up and everybody's pissed, besides when Clinton was in office. And then when it pushes the other direction, business is great, we're all doing great things, and things are moving in the right direction for those years. Like, what gives? I guess is kind of what
so I'm gonna give my quick thoughts on that, and then CBO can take it away. It's the pressure valve example, right? They put the pressure on with, let's say, Biden now for 4 years, all kinds of crazy laws and green deals and whatever that really have the people fed up with what is going on, right? And to avoid, right, everybody's like, oh, civil war, it's gonna happen any second now, civil war, right? Then you get another 4 years of pressure release. Somebody you really like doing all the things, trying to undo all the things that the previous guy did, while still slipping in one or two things that you might not really like, but you got to give it up because, hey, this one thing I don't like, but he's doing these three things that I do like. So, you got to do a little bit of give and take. So they're still slipping in their things. The pressure relieves for 4 years, and then they slam you again with the pressure cooker. And if you look at it macro, what's happening? 8 years. 8 years, 12 years have gone by, right? Three different election cycles have happened. 8 years have happened, 12 years have happened. And what's happened in those 12 years overall? You got 8 years of basically freedoms and things taken away from you, but you gave all that up for 4 years that you kind of got it.
So it's progressively pushing us in a direction
progressively
of
pushing
control.
you one way, while releasing the pressure to make sure you never get to the point of an actual revolt, of actually doing anything. And you just ease into it, right? They're lubing you up before the full penetration happens.
Lubing
right?
you up.
They're lubing you up slowly but surely.
We're definitely
away,
getting demonetized for this stream. That's a
no way. Inching away, right?
Well, we did say
1
Trump,
inch at a time until it's all the way in, and then you're good to go. And it already
1
happened.
inch at
Done.
a time.
There's no going back. It already happened. You can't undo what has been done. And that's what it is. That's exactly why you get these good cycles and bad cycles happening. That's exactly.
Shout out YouTube. What up? We got good things to say here, so pay attention.
All right.
CBO, we kind of hijacked some of this, bro. We'll just,
Dude,
we get on politics.
I mean, I got out. That's why I went with the housing market first, because I just wanted to showcase that and kind of go over the idea why I see and have remained seeing that, I think we're going to see, and does that mean we can go lower literally in the short term? Does it mean go down to 17.1 or something in that nature, or whatever the case is? Yeah, I mean, that can happen, right? Like, I'm going to go over what I'm looking at Bitcoin right now in a second, but pull up my screen again, because to answer your question of what the catalyst would be, whatever, right? When we look back at this ordeal, right, we just went through this, right? 55 was a start, Cuban Missile Crisis, gas crisis, I think, up here. Restart, you had the recession of 81, interest rates, blah, 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 and then yada, yada, yada. Well, what happened right here is the question, right? So, like, just looking back, and I just searched it up, and for 1963, so after this first one, right, you got the mid-cycle slowdown, 1963 right here, we had boom, boom, boom. inflation peaked and interest rates were reduced.
Okay, which is right. Okay,
so, and then that's what we rocked up to the next part here, right? So now going back to 82 and 83 right here, same thing. I just pulled it up. United States economy, 1982. What do you know? Peak of recession occurred December 1982. Unemployment rate was at its highest, yada, yada. Fed rates had peaked, and as well as inflation fell to, got under control at under 5%, whatever. So
interest rates were dropped.
Interest rates and inflation, interest rates and inflation, interest rates and inflation. What are we dealing with right this moment?
Interest rates
and inflation. Right. So when you ask what the catalyst will be, whatever the case is, I imagine
vote for interest rates and inflation.
Yeah. If you guys didn't catch it, I think it's going to be interest rates and inflation. We'll get under control.
That's an interesting narrative that also flows with what Miguel does talk about with the pressure cooker a lot, because over time we live in a society of velocity of money. You've heard us talk about this before, and essentially what they're doing is moving money in a direction to make you spend, and then pull it back a little bit. Spend, pull it back. And the pullbacks feel bad, but the movement feels good. I bought a house at 2% interest. Heck yeah. But guess what? I also bought this house that I live in, crazy low interest rate, right? But I paid too much freaking money for this house, right? Like, it was absolutely. And now you're looking at these same houses. This same house is going to cost me less as we move forward, but the interest rates are getting exorbitant. And I see it. It's that push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. So how does Bitcoin, let's bring it home. How does Bitcoin play into this?
Before we get into the Bitcoin stuff, I want to address two comments here. We got one from Mike. Clinton are friends. Absolutely. Biden and Trump are probably friends too. The reason why I'll address this is just how when you go see a fight, right? You see two boxers, they hate each other, they talk a bunch of trash. It's just a show. It's a hype show so that everybody clicks onto the pay-per-view and sees the fight, right? That's what it is. It is a hype cycle. Like, oh yeah, they really hate each other. No, they don't. Like, if Trump really believed in the things that he says about like how corrupt things are, why would you be in a position of power and give that power up to corruption? Why wouldn't you fight back that corruption, right? Now he's coming back, and one of the few things that have been said now that he's coming back after this Mar-a-Lago thing is that if he doesn't win, it was rigged. And that idea that I just said earlier about fraudulent elections now exists forever. Comment number 2 is somebody here says something about January 6th, right? January 6th, this is a good key point to look at. What happened in January 6th, right? People were set up, people that were thinking that they were going to fight for freedom, right? Do the whole thing that Trump is all talking about, right? Fighting the corruption. They were set up, they were led into the building. And what has happened since? Massive investigations into anybody that's right-winged, right? That leans to the Republicans. Anyone that is in a militia, now the FBI is deeming them domestic terrorists, right? So taking down militias, going after the Second Amendment, and going after anybody that's pro-Second Amendment as domestic terrorism, and then, taking that down is just another step. So that is what January 6th set up for everybody, is another way of government gaining control and eliminating this pressure of people being armed and being ready to fight back. And anyone that is willing to talk about anything like that or do any type of those actions is a domestic terrorist. That was
so then
January
what happens
6th.
when this happens? What happens when this happens?
Voting on blockchain? Dude, that's never going to happen. And if they do put it on a blockchain, what are they going to put it on? XRP, where that deals with the Federal Reserve and all the other corrupt assholes? Like, it's not going to ever be in our favor. They're never going to be like, all right,
you're
guys,
saying that
we're giving up our voting machines so that you guys can have real voting.
Well, the Solana phone is going to be the new voting machine.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be always
what every
down.
American is going to have in their home.
That's right.
You should put up Magic's comment, because that's a pretty good one too.
It will be. I know. I saw this. Bitcoin brings it home because you just stop paying taxes. It offsets the high prices. It's what Michael Saylor's doing, and he manages a ton of money. Yeah, I think that's an interesting. I think that's an interesting thing that I definitely don't recommend anyone does. This is just for entertainment purposes only. We are not telling you make sure to pay your taxes. Okay, so CBO, walk it home. Show me what's going on with your Bitcoin chart here, with where we're at versus where we're headed and what this has looked like.
All right, so this is kind of scooting this around here, right? So you got NASDAQ 2002, Bitcoin. So this is, kind of wanted to preface, the whole conversation with the housing market idea. So you kind of have the idea of, could we just continue on from here? Does that mean next month, next 90 days, whatever, we just shoot up from here? No, we're looking at like literally 4 or 5 year continuation. And if, one thing that I've learned from this, whole ordeal is obviously, looking at Bitcoin and crypto as that 4-year cycle idea. It's aside from time, which Magic, shout out to him, like aside from the time of the market where, we've actually seen the top come in, every 4 years so far. Bottom, if this is the bottom here, this would be a pretty quick bottom compared generally, right? You see a bottom in like December, whatever the case is. But let's just say that, that 4-year cycle idea, it just everybody just really went on this thing like it was just that simple. Once again, I was one of those people for a minute, right? Like I was following that pretty closely until it was invalidated, right? December 1 came out. I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to play out, right? With that being said, the market, this whole asset class as a whole is maturing. As you're starting to get trillions of dollars brought into it, and not just, the 2017 run up, 2011 run up, right? Like you only had, the first, 1000x% gain in Bitcoin was like $100 billion market cap. And then obviously into the 2017 run up, you had things going 100x, all this, only an $800 market cap. Well, now you have thousands of other projects, and you do have trillions of dollars, coming flowing in and out. Right now it's probably, I think, less than 1, but at the high we had like $2 or $3 trillion, right? And as we kind of grow on, comparing Bitcoin to Bitcoin probably isn't the best idea, right? So looking at this, comparing it to another asset class that is obviously matured over time and showcased a pretty decent history. I just want to bring up this idea here with the NASDAQ, right? So you have this, a high, you got your low. You can see it very well. I usually bring up one of these at a time, but like I really just want to kind of stack them here so you kind of have a good idea of what the idea would be here. You literally on both of these patterns had your high, you get to pull back a slightly higher high, and then what do? You come back and you back test the previous all-time high. Same deal here, right? Boom, boom, boom. NASDAQ was well over a many years that this took place in. So kind of the timing is different between the two. But it's very interesting to see how we just kind of came back. You retap this high, and then you pretty much range sideways for quite a while, right? And then eventually you broke out of that range, continued onward, upward, got your golden pocket up here from the overall high to low, came up and tagged that at a certain time. And I'm going to kind of bring that into the idea here in a second as well. And then continued from there, right? So, looking at Bitcoin in a comparison here, kind of looking more towards the 2027 timeframe, 2028, as a time where maybe all markets kind of see a pretty big top. We're going to kind of cycle this out here. So what I did is I threw on Fibonacci time, fib-based Fibonacci time over this as well, comparing it to the NASDAQ. So that's why you kind of have these lines going across here. So drawing this out, as you can see down here. So between the time we bottomed, and that's assuming that this was our bottom. So that's, throw that out there. If we, obviously if we keep making another low, then, the time frame will change a bit. But assuming that this is our bottom, 17,500, whatever. If you were to see something like this, regardless, this entire bull run here, with the time frame here to distribute this out, you'd be looking really out to this 1-to-1 before any kind of major notation here, right? And correlating this to the NASDAQ, if you look down here, we pretty much range sideways in between our low and the 0.382. So that would give a possible idea that we would range sideways basically until July of next year. So that's why I keep bringing up that idea where it's like, everybody, there's a case for that 10K. There's a case for melt up to 50K. Well, this is the case for neither, right? So this is the one where we don't go to 10K. We don't go to 50K anytime soon, but the opportunities to be had right here, really goes back to that, we talk about the 2018 bear market, right? With XRP, I always bring this one up. If I would have bought and sold 17 cents, 30 cents, 17 cents, 30 cents, the amount of times we, just ranged around in that region for literally years, your portfolio in fiat would have been down, but your holdings of whatever asset, if it's Bitcoin, if it's Ethereum, whatever the case is, a strategy would really have to be wrapped around this, but, you'd increase your holdings, right? So say, you're selling out around highs and you're buying back in low. Obviously that's the goal, right? Sell high, buy low. But in theory, right, let's follow along there. So we range sideways a bit here. I got the golden pocket on both of these mapped out. for a reason. And as you notice, we don't run back into that golden pocket on the NASDAQ, which, that doesn't mean that it has to happen the same way on here, but let's just say it does. Doesn't happen to the 1-to-1 in time, right? So that would actually put us not even coming back to 50K till May 2025. Right. So the idea would be we'd run, and the range that I'm talking about is not small. This is not, this is a weekly time frame. So you're talking, from where we are right now, 20K up to about 30-32, right? 30-31, I'm sorry. And to see, just kind of ranging around this region, running it up, getting them to 30, getting everybody really excited, thinking we're going to get the melt up. You already know it. You got the hash ribbon buy signal, like all the things, bullish wise. We already came back, we tagged the lows again. If we run it up from here to 30K, especially if we start doing it by the end of the year, it's going to fill out a lot of rhetorics that I think are out there, right, for many people. And even if right now we're at 20,000, if you have the idea, the strategy in your mind, like I'm gonna sell everything at 30K or whatever, or have some kind of strategy in play right now, things change when you get up to these levels because the news changes, right? Right now everything's scary. You got Fed rates, you got I don't know what's going to happen at the end of September, blah 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 blah. Slowly, let's say we run it up till the end of the year and we are, sitting around 30-31K over the next few months or weeks. Well, you already know that the news is going to be amazing at that point. Melt up city is going to be, blasting through everywhere. And I'm not saying we couldn't, I'm just at the moment, this is the idea though, right? So we'd run it up and just range around in that region until basically next summer. From there, right? Essentially, you almost do the same thing even until October of this time frame down here, right? You run it to the 618, so the golden pocket comes in this region. That comes in at about March of 2024. So if we were to do something similar, right, we're just kind of ranging around in this region, essentially ranging it out for quite a while, right? And now this last leg right here is kind of more of a an uptrend. If once again, just totally speculation at this point. But if we don't see that golden pocket again until that 1-to-1 in time. Puts us out to about May of 2025. And by that point, ranging this long, getting back up to 50K, I would have to imagine everybody would probably offload everything, just assuming the market's going to once again pull back down, range around the lows again, right? Like that kind of deal. And then this could be actually where we actually start taking off into the sunset and into our actual, overall market top around 2027, 2028, 2029. Fun fact about 2029, 100-year cyclical anniversary of the Great Depression. That would be where I would imagine everything collapses in a sense.
Get ready, guys.
What's that?
Well,
get ready, guys. We're about to live it again.
Well, guys, I've got it written down to be able to retire before 2030. So it looks like we're going to advance to that point. I'm not going to sell because, of course, I'll be too damn bullish. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yes, I'm able to retire. And then all of a sudden it's like, woo, just kidding. And then we got to start this show back over. No, I think that the information here is wild. I think that we've talked about it before, that when you have, I believe in a coincidence here, a coincidence there, but when you pile them one after the other on top of each other, it starts to look like a game plan. And so I'm interested to see how that plays out in our financial markets. Our financial markets play into everything that we do, and it's a way that they are able to control people, and control is ultimately what a lot of this is about. We're moving towards these CBDCs, which could be possibly looked at as the solution to our inflation problems, or at least they're going to present it in that manner. I think it's going to be really interesting these next couple of years. This is a great example of why we have Danger Close Alpha, of why we want to educate you and get you involved with the DCA fam. We believe that there's so much uncertainty in what's happening that you need to at least be ready for the fact that this could not go our way. And if it doesn't go our way, it could get ugly. CBO was talking about the gas crisis back in the 80s, the gas and oil crisis back in the 80s. What if this time it's the rolling blackouts and brownouts that they're doing because we have created this new deal with all of these, efficient electricity ideas?
Dude, did you see what happened in California? Talking about that?
I haven't seen this one.
So California is making a thing about banning all gas cars by like 2035.
2030, I think so.
Or
yeah,
2030, 2035.
Interesting year.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And right after this, they literally have just come out saying like, hey, by the way, guys, don't go home and charge your cars all night long because of rolling blackouts that the grid can't take it. So first you're literally getting rid of gas cars for electrical cars, and then you're saying, by the way, maybe you should just let not charge the battery because the grid can't take it, and then the so
the grid that they want you to be on,
can't drive a gas car, grid going down, like it's ridiculous. And what you were talking about, the Danger Close Alpha project, if there's something I want you guys to take away from the Danger Close Alpha project, is that everything is part of the plan. There's always a plan for everything. If you've ever learned anything about this cipher, trying to figure it out, right, about what's going on, what's this, what does that mean, everything is planned out. Everything has a motive and a reason. Nothing happens out of a coincidence, right? So just like these markets, everything is happening for a reason. There's always some type of end goal, and how they push us to that end goal is just the journey, right? But everything happens for a reason. Nothing is happening out of coincidence. There is no savior that's just coming out of nowhere as a political person.
Hold on.
I'm saying as a political person. There's no political savior that's coming to come here and just save everybody, and it's all good and dandy, right? There's only one savior, Jesus Christ, and if he's coming, you know it's bad. So
that's a fact. You know it is all bad, and y'all better get ready. No, I appreciate you coming on tonight, CVO. I thought this was a really fun show, interesting show. The information is downright scary, and I'll be interested to see how that plays out and how these things, kind of intersect and intertwine. We'll see moving forward how this plays out. I'll be interested. What we need to do is come back a year from now and kind of see where we're at. Right? Are we along that path? Did something happen in the meantime? And see where we're at. Kenton, thank you for the $5 super chat. Says great show, and thanks to CVO for joining. Crypto fam, we appreciate you guys. Again, I didn't check the likes recently, but please, if you're in the live chat and mobile, just X out real quick, hit the like. You can come right back in. We appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you follow CVO on Leading Crypto. You know where to find him, Leading Crypto on YouTube. We appreciate you. Crypto fam, jump in the Discord, do your thing, smash the likes. Let's have fun tonight. Follow us on Twitter. Do all the social media things that we talk about. So we love you guys if nobody's told you that before today, because you could be anywhere and you're here. So thank you for that. Just remember, question everything.
Trust nothing.
With emphasis on that. Trust nothing. And until next time, hodl.
Till 2030.
Like I said, till 2030. Don't run. We love you guys.